the last 2 years, we've taken our viewers to some of our favourite places in England.
We have explored castles, country houses, rolling landscapes and ancient abbeys.
But now it's time to dig a little deeper.
We're going to strap on our walking shoes to uncover hidden treasures only accessible on foot.
Along the way, we'll uncover the stories that line the history beneath our feet.
And we'll try some local treats when we stop for our picnic.
This is our brand new adventure.
Welcome to our brand new podcast. My name is Kay.
And I'm Dan, and this is the Bakery Bears Picnic. Over the next 60 minutes, we're going to be taking you on a journey through 1,000 years of history. We're going to be exploring one of the estates of one of England's greatest country houses.
Built around 800 years ago and still lived in by the same family, Danby Hall sits in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales. And it provides the backdrop for a family who sat on the fringes of England's history since the Norman conquest.
We'll uncover striking castle estates across the stunning county of Yorkshire.
And the story of the family that links them all together.
But our journey starts right here, at a Cistercian monastery in the heart of Wensleydale. We thought we'd start the very first Bakery Bears Picnic in the first favourite place that we took people to.
It was.
Jervaulx Abbey.
Yeah.
And here is that route that we're going to be taking. We shall leave the Abbey, we shall venture up Abbey Hill and then along Newstead Lane, down Starkbank Road, I'm hoping it's not too steep, along Hammer Road. We're going to stop at Greywood and have a look at the place where they got the stones to build the Abbey with. We're then going to stop for lunch at East Witton. We'll then head down to the cover and we'll then follow the river along through the estate with Danby Hall over the other side, finishing up back in the car park.
Now, Jervaulx Abbey, did you know that this is the home of Wensleydale cheese?
No.
Yes.
I don't think I knew that.
It's the home of Wensleydale cheese, and the reason for that is when the abbey was set up, it was French monks that were sent over.
Right.
And they came from Roquefort.
Ah.
And they brought with them a recipe for making cheese with sheep's milk.
Oh, right.
And Wensleydale initially was made using sheep's milk.
Right.
I think it was around 1400, so they'd been making it for 300 years because this abbey was formed in 1156. We even know the name of the guy who formed it. He was called Peter Quintain, and he was given the land by Alan.
Alan?
Yeah.
Just Alan?
Yeah, Earl Alan from Richmond.
This is Richmond Castle, home to Earl Alan. Now, Alan Rufus was a loyal knight of William the Conqueror, and here he is. He arrived in 1066, and in 1071 he was awarded the fiefdom of Richmondshire. He immediately began building his castle here at Richmond, from where he governed the surrounding lands, and the surrounding lands were vast, as after the Battle of Hastings, the country was split up into very, very large portions. Now here is Alan's chapel, which he would have prayed in, and it was probably from here that he took the decisions that most landowners made, which was to award land to people like Peter Quintain to build abbeys. Whilst Alan was a deeply religious man, as all men were really in that period of time, he spent the majority of his time supporting his king, governing his lands. So he believed that the only way he would secure his way into heaven was by giving money and by founding abbeys. Now, he didn't just found the abbey at Jervaulx, he also found the abbey at Easby and other abbeys as well across Yorkshire. We're now on our way up to the top of the tower, and from here you can see down the country towards where Jervaulx is. It's an absolutely beautiful structure, and from the top there the views are stunning. On a clear day on the horizon, we're now looking directly south. You can actually see York, which must be 40 miles away, and it's down there, looking straight down there now, that you will find Jervaulx Abbey.
So it was from right here at Richmond Castle that Earl Alan granted the money to Peter Quintain and the lands, of course, and that Jervaulx Abbey was built way down in that direction, about 20 miles from here. So as you can see, the main monastery buildings are behind me. These were built by Peter Quintain, as we've already said, and brought from the mine that's just over the hill that we're going to be walking past very soon. Now, all these lumps and bumps in this field, to the naked eye, would perhaps just say, oh, it's just a farmer's field with sheep in and grazing, and there was nothing ever going on here. It couldn't be more wrong. Let's just take a quick look at the Google Earth picture from above.
So here is the satellite view from above, and there I am. Now you can see all the abbey buildings at the top, but below that, look at all those earthworks. Now, all those were buildings. There were walls, and there was roads, and all sorts of things going on within the precinct that was taking care of all the things that wasn't to do with the praying. So you would have had tanners taking care of leather, and farriers taking care of horses, and brewers. It was a city, in effect, in the Middle Ages.
So this would have been a bustling centre of activity. All the people who were not involved with the actual praying, not the monks, all the people who were supporting the abbey would all have lived in this area out here, surrounded by that curtain wall that we saw on the Google Earth picture.
Let's just take a moment to stroll together through one of our favourite places in the whole world. It's unbelievably tranquil. We're walking now up the West Range, and this is where a lot of work would have been done by the brothers preparing wool, and also visitors would have come up this way. And you really do get a feeling of the peace in the building, and we've spoken before about this, how buildings activities then feed into the feel of those buildings in future years, and it's just utterly beautiful. This is the doorway into the main church. So this would have been a cathedral-like structure. You can see one of the pillars there, and running up on the north side there, and the similar pillars running up on the south side. And if you look at the size of those, you get a feeling for how utterly beautiful and huge this cathedral would have been. As we stroll up, we're looking up at the choir, where the high altar would have been. Here are graves of people who would have donated money to the brothers. The abbots were buried in the chapter house, which we'll see later. And here, of course, are the transepts, where private choirs would have been. Finally, we arrive at the cloister, where all the learning was done within the abbey.
Right now, this place feels like the picture of tranquility, with the sheep and the birds, and the beautiful day that we've got ahead of us, we hope. But in 1537, Masters Leighton and Leigh, King Henry VIII's commissioners, came down this path and through this archway. This is the original archway that would have then taken you down to Jervaulx Abbey. And they were coming here to do one thing, and that was dissolve the monasteries.
Henry VIII had fallen in love with Anne Boleyn, and the only way that he could arrange his marriage was by breaking from the church in Rome and setting up the Church of England. To do that, he had to dissolve the monasteries, and the men he used to do that was specifically two solicitors, Masters Leighton and Leigh, who travelled around the country with a brief from the king himself to find reasons to close these buildings down. When you look at the size of these buildings, just look up there at those windows that would have been in the brothers' dormitory. We're actually coming up now to the kitchens are behind there. That's one of the rooms that you would have been welcomed into, with a huge fireplace to keep you warm. These are palatial buildings, and jealousy always is rife, isn't it, when success comes? And whilst many places may well have been doing some of the things that the history books tell us that they were, history is written by the victors, and one of the things that Henry was going to make sure was that he was going to acquire all of these buildings. Funnily enough, he fired the majority of them. That's what he did here at Jervaulx. He burnt the place down. But he took their money and he took their belongings, and he really needed that. And not only did he need that, of course, he needed control of the church, and so formed the Church of England, and he was granted his divorce, and the rest, as they say, is history. As we make our way out now, this is the way that you would actually head out of Jervaulx if you visited. We see an utterly just fascinating sight. This was found in the heart of the abbey, and this is the embalming slab that would have been used in the infirmary to embalm any brothers who had died prior to their burial. And you know, I look at that and I wonder about the hundreds of men who would have been laid out here, and the care that would have been taken of them, and the many abbots as well who would have laid out on this slab.
Now, the abbot here, Adam Sedber, he was a young and vibrant man, and he wasn't standing for any of it, and he was going to fight, and fight he did in the pilgrimage of grace.
Adam did the only thing that he could, and he joined forces with other barons and other abbots from across the north of England to form an army to fight Henry and to uphold the life and these stunning and beautiful buildings. Unfortunately, Henry defeated them, and he defeated them quickly. Adam would have sat here knowing that his time was up. This is the chapter house, and beneath his feet lay all the previous abbots from Jervaulx, their wisdom flowing up through Adam's feet to enable him to make the right decisions. Across the country, similar conversations I'm sure will have taken place in this, the most sacred place and important place really in the abbey. After the meeting that, you know, I'm sure would have been so dreadful for the brothers to hear that their life was coming to an end, Adam most probably retreated to his private quarters, and here at his private chapel.
I'm absolutely certain before Adam set off on his trek to find safety at Bolton Castle, he would have paused for a moment here in his private chapel to pray.
So we better get on, otherwise we're never going to finish this by the end of the day.
Francisco is, look, he's off.
Zoom.
Like a shot. So this is the first half of our walk, and this is going to take us right up to lunchtime, and I'm particularly looking forward to having a sit and eating that Wensleydale cheese and that cake we just bought in the shop.
It looks very yummy.
It really does look yummy. Now down there is Jervaulx Abbey, where we've just left, and this is the only annoying bit actually of the walk, because these cars, they're right next to us, and it doesn't feel particularly safe. I don't know what you think.
No, it doesn't, and they were very, very fast.
Yeah, really fast. We saw these lovely cows, look.
Look at those cows, look, they came to say hello, and they all look like they're scratching their chins, look, on the rocks.
Are they milkers, do you think?
Yes.
How do you know?
Because they're girls.
Ah, right, okay. So I wonder if they make Wensleydale cheese with these at the Wensleydale Creamery in Hawes.
It's possible.
I know. So here is that bit that you predicted would be steep.
I knew this would be steep.
And now, are you going to do okay with this, do you think?
I think so.
It's lovely and green, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
Very green,
It's
yes.
and warm, surprisingly warm.
It is very warm. Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried that we maybe should have put on some sun cream.
Very possibly, yes. This may be an error.
Now, I know that when we get a little way up this hill, there's going to be an amazing view across the estate right over to the house at Danby, and I can't wait to see it. Could you look out for it for me?
I will.
That's cool. And, oh, look, but you can't see over there because I'm too tall.
No, couldn't see over there.
I'm actually using my selfie stick, aren't I?
Yes. It's tragic.
It's highly tragic. Especially for the filming of the Bakery Bears picnic, we have invested in a selfie stick.
We have, yeah.
Kay's just asked me, what is that big building over there? Well, that is the big building that we have come to explore. These lands here were the lands of the Scropes, and that there was sort of their country retreat. They were based at Bolton Castle, which is over that way. They'd arrived in, actually before 1066, they were awarded land by Edward the Confessor. Edward the Confessor went through a process of trying to make friends with the Normans, and that's the whole reason why 1066 happened. He promised the throne, at least he supposedly promised the throne to William the Conqueror. Here comes a car. So that there was their country seat. That is Danby Hall. That came into the hands of the Scropes in around the 1300s, and it's been within the family ever since. And today is all about exploring who they were and who they still are, in fact, because the same family still owns and lives there. But we're talking about Jervaulx Abbey, we're talking about Adam Sedber. He wanted to get refuge with the current Scrope, the current Baron Scrope. So it's about 1536 actually, I think it was. He's running down this road on the way to Bolton Castle.
So where was Adam Sedber heading on that night when he was racing away from the advancing king's men? Here to Castle Bolton, and Lord Scrope, who he hoped, and actually did, give him shelter. Castle Bolton is vast, and it is a wonderful place to visit because it appears from nowhere, up a little back lane. Suddenly you're looking at the biggest castle. It's reminiscent for me of the Tower of London, and it's obviously not situated in the middle of a city, but look, stunning, rolling, beautiful hills. This was the home of the Scropes. This was where they governed their lands from. And this is where they could raise their armies. And that's why Adam was heading here, because he knew that he could be protected in this huge castle. Taking this walk is just really moving for me, because Adam is a man that I've been interested in for many years, but what's also been so wonderful so far has been the wildlife. Funny, look at this.
Black and white, is it?
Now, Nana Wendy, my mum, has told us that it was a buzzard, but on the day we had no idea.
Yeah. I can't imagine dragging stones all the way down here, Kay.
No.
It is a little bit steeper than what we anticipated. My map reading skills, I never did cadet, so I can't blame it on that.
Fly. Fly in the eye.
There's some amazing wildlife though. I don't know what that bird was we just saw.
I don't know either, no.
Some form of
Mum
bird
would
of
know.
prey. Yes, she would. We need Nana Wendy.
We do.
But what you can see here is the whole of the Scrope's lands, which is
You
just...
can see the house now.
You really can see. There it is. I mean,
See it?
it really is big. And what amazes me, and I'm getting more and more fascinated with these, is the privately owned homes like this, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
My mission is to get us inside one.
Gosh, I'd love a nosy around.
Yeah, it may take some doing. What's so intriguing about that place is Danby Hall I've done an immense amount of research on, and I can't find much at all. The only bits of information I've been able to find was in the 60s, the White Fathers, which were monks who ran a school, were allowed to use the school for a while whilst their seminary
Use the house a while.
Yes, sorry, use the house as a school. And some old guys who had gone there have posted pictures online, so you can see what it looked like in the 60s.
We're now very much in the footsteps of those initial monks as they made their way up the really beautiful hill. You can see why they selected this place. Look at this. And up there on the left, here it is the quarry where they got their stone, and the monks actually created the quarry. The quarry that, as we're going to find out in just a moment, is still there today. So they quarried out their stone, they stuck it on the back of a cart with a big pack horse. They pulled it down the road that's just taken us an hour and a half to walk up, and they built Jervaulx Abbey.
That was the quarry, and we've just seen a truck with massive bits of stone going down on it, and I'm sure I found online that Whitton Fell something,
whatever the stone
insert a stone name, is still really popular. So that noise we can hear must be a quarry over the other side of that hill now. But what happened was hundreds of years ago, when the monks had finished with that and when they'd gone, so I think we're talking 1700s, it was covered over with soil and they planted those trees on. And now we have all those lovely trees, which are very pretty and probably blocking a lot of the sound from the quarry on the other side.
Look at this. Look what we found. I love those black sheep. I don't know why I'm drawn to those. I don't know what that says about your personality, but he's having a little sleep. This is also the highest point of our walk today, and I'm really looking forward now to getting down the hill and into some of the later history of the area, particularly Lowthorp, which I can't wait to show you. We are coming to the end of our journey with Adam Sedber. We're going to be starting to head north down towards the forgotten hamlet of Lowthorp and East Witton, and he actually carried on across the country west to Bolton Castle. Now, he made it to Bolton Castle, but the king's men were hot on his heels, and he needed a backup plan.
The king's men were particularly vicious, and he just decided that the best thing to do was to make his way onto Witton Fell, which we're just walking up to now. And he was summarily caught, Kay, taken to the Tower of London.
Yes.
And he actually inscribed his name on the wall of Beauchamp Tower. He put Adam Sedber, Abbas Jervaulx, pretty much. He put the date, and it's still there today. So if you go and you visit the Tower of London, you go to the Beauchamp Tower, look out for Adam Sedber's inscription on the wall. But of course, we're not here to talk about Adam Sedber. We're here to talk about the Scroopes, and their house is just as I get blown off this hill.
It's quite breezy.
Can we see it? Can we see it?
I can see it.
It's over there. It's over there.
There, my fingers pointing right now.
So when did they arrive, and who was the first one who arrived? Well, his name was Richard. You can come back in the picture now, darling.
Sorry. I want to put my coat back on.
His name was Richard Fitzscrope, and he was he was a Norman knight. And the first castle he built, he actually built in Ludlow. And he came up with a really...
We've been to Ludlow.
We have.
Yeah.
And he gave it a really intriguing name. He called it Richard's Castle.
Put a lot of thought into that then.
Well, the funny thing is, this was 1051 that he built that castle. Now, the castle's not there anymore, but there is a village called Richard's Castle.
Oh.
So Richard Fitzscrope, his name lives on. Now, his family, over the course of time, would move gradually up the country, and let's find out who the very first Scrope to get buried, because that's the way that you track people. You find out, certainly when you go back, really pre-1500, you find out where they were buried. That's how you know where they were.
For the next 200 years, the Scropes began to move their way not just up the country, but also the social ladder. By 1218, they were somewhere very local, as we found records of a Scrope burial at the nearby Easby Abbey. But it was in 1371 when the family really began to take flight. King Richard II awarded them their baronial seat, and the first Baron Scrope of Bolton appears. And what a man he was, governing his lands from Bolton Castle and building himself the house we've come to see today, Danby Hall, as his country retreat. The first Baron would set a tradition that successive Lord Scropes would follow right up to today. He was a great soldier, or knight of course back then, fighting in battle very successfully for successive kings of England. In one particular battle in Scotland, Lord Scrope came upon another English knight with the same image on his shield, and here it is. And so began the first ever court case over image rights. Effectively, this was the start of trademarking. We know how high the Scropes had risen by this point, as they called Geoffrey Chaucer, the famous poet, and John of Gaunt as witnesses. To give you an idea on how amazing these two witnesses were, it would be like me going to court and calling George Lucas and Prince Harry as witnesses in a case. These were cool guys. As the Scrope family grew in stature, they also grew in size, and cousins began to find great success. In the Middle Ages, there were two routes to stardom, as a soldier or as a priest, and this cousin Scrope found great success in the latter. He became Archbishop of York, second only to the Archbishop of Canterbury in importance. Sadly, this Scrope chose the wrong path and supported a northern uprising against King Henry IV, and he ended up being beheaded. 70 years later, another Scrope found himself at the heart of the government of King Henry V. Once again, though, he found his head severed from his shoulders after he was found to be part of the Southampton plot to overthrow his supposed great friend and king. This story is dramatised wonderfully in Shakespeare's famous play.
Kay is just saying as we walk down this very challenging sandy hill.
It's really sandy. Honestly, you could build a sandcastle. It's bizarre.
You can totally see why they identified this as the perfect spot to start chiselling stone out to build their lovely abbey. What's intriguing for me about all this is, Jervaulx, how did we find this place?
Gosh, I can't even remember.
I think I might have spotted it on an ordnance survey.
Maybe.
Because it's privately owned, is Jervaulx Abbey. You can come and visit. It costs £3 to go in, doesn't it?
You can go in any
Yeah.
day of the year at all. It's just open.
And it is.
Come on Christmas Day.
You really could. We really could.
We really could.
And it is so much nicer than all the others, isn't it?
It is. It's my favourite, I've got to say.
The question, I suppose, is why is it so
Sorry, I'm
much
looking
nicer?
down. I just don't want to go.
The hill, as you can see in the background, the hill we're walking down is particularly
I was
steep.
gonna use a Yorkshire saying then, but I won't.
I think I spotted it on an ordnance survey, and we thought, let's come down and give it a look.
Yeah, and it's actually, when we first came, there was a cafe, but it wasn't like it is now.
No.
So it's very small, and
Yeah.
it wasn't open a lot.
I think the reason why I love it so much is it is the most tranquil of all the places that we
It
go
is,
to.
definitely.
It's just the most perfect place to stop and have a picnic.
This is Deep Gill. It's a beautiful stream running down from Witton Fell, and it's at the foot of the hill that we've just taken you up and then down. Look at the lines on that lawn. I have deep respect for anyone who takes care of their lawn in that way. I don't know if it's just a boy thing, but I love to get lines on my lawn. Now, as some of you will know, but just in case there's people out there who don't know, both Kay and I are knitters. And we both thought how perfect it would be to sit right here in this beautiful garden overlooking the lovely stream and have a knit. But we thought, do you know what? If the owners looked out and saw us doing that, they might think it was just a little bit odd. But what of the Scropes? The 5th Baron Scrope of Bolton was the last one that I found that perhaps chose the wrong team in a fight to the death. He rode out in support of Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth. Richard lost, and John's fate should have been sealed. But thanks to a distant family connection to the new Tudor King Henry VII, he survived, and his family absolutely thrived. We're now on our way down to a traditional English farm, and this really does bring back memories for me because I grew up in a village in Yorkshire and it was full of farms. So my life was spent often going very naughtily into buildings like that over there and playing on hay bales. But also the smell, and the smell is always of cows, if you know what I mean. And you know what? That for me is the smell of the country. But just look at that. And now, when they lay down, again, is it me? But I thought when cows laid down that it was going to rain. And it didn't. And that's something that I've lived my life by. If you see a cow laying down, get ready for some rain showers. But we didn't have a drop that day. Now, as we established earlier, these are milkers, and we're going to get a perfect example of that when we get into this farm, because on the right-hand side, as we get past this big barn, there was, first of all, there right in front of us is where they do the milking, and then just to the right of there is a building which I think is where, the reason why I say I think is I don't know too much about this, but we used to live, Kay and I used to live when our daughter Bryony was first born. We lived near a milking farm, and they had a building like that just on the right. You just saw it in the corner there, and that's where they used to take the milk in prior to it being collected and then taken away for sale. Did you hear Kay there? She was whispering to me. She said that she felt that we should whisper because we were walking through a farm. And it's funny how I think a farm can be often like a theatre. when there's nothing going on, it feels like you're waiting for something to happen, and perhaps you should be quiet and in awe and in readiness for whatever is about to occur. It really did, actually, that and the smell, and just walking through like I used to when I was 10, 11, 12, it really did take me back. Now, we're walking down towards Lowthorp, and we're walking down to the village that sucked up Lowthorp, that expanded outwards, called East Witton. East Witton is a particularly interesting place for us to go and look at, because it's housed so many of the workers who have tended the years at Jervaulx afterward, and also at Danby Hall, and also really throughout this area that we've had the great privilege of having such wonderful views of all day. East Witton was formed it's a long time ago, actually, around the time of Jervaulx Abbey. Lowthorp was formed around the time of Jervaulx Abbey, and then East Witton appeared a couple of hundred years after that, so we're talking 1300. And it was formed because there was people who needed to go and work in the woods and go and tend to all the woods. So that was the reason for the formation of the settlement. But here is the thing we've come to see, the graveyard.
So, 1592, Henry Scrope died, and he was so loved by Elizabeth I, she actually wrote a letter to Henry's widow and probably sent it to Danby Hall, which is just over there, to thank her for his service. We've just found Lowthorp. Now, Lowthorp is a forgotten hamlet. It's disappeared. It's actually been swallowed up by another little village, which we're going to go into in a moment, just over there, which is called East Witton. The cool thing about Lowthorp is the church of St Martin used to be right here, and here is the graveyard. Take a look. Now, Lowthorp was renowned for supposedly producing children with deformities. And the history books say, well, it's not history books, the guidebooks say if I was to go into this graveyard and have a look around, I would find two very distinctive gravestones. One for the baby born with the head of a hare, and another for a baby born with two heads. And Kay has actually quite rightly said that back in the 1800s, 1700s, if you'd had conjoined twins born, they would not have known what they had at all. And that could well have been the root then of the supposed problem in Lowthorp with children being born with birth defects. The church was actually moved, and it was moved over there. We'll show it to you in just a moment. It was moved in the late 1800s. But Lowthorp leads into East Witton. And East Witton is a really cool place because it's been used lots in TV programmes, most notably in All Creatures Great and Small. Yes, we can stop, can't we, somewhere for... I mean, I thought there might be a bench in there.
I did spot one bench around the tree, actually. But I think there's benches running up that green there.
Right. Well, I'm alright at the minute.
That is going to be used now.
Gosh, look at that graveyard. Maybe the church was around here.
There's massive trees there.
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, they could have grown seeds to it. They look like very old, those trees. When was it moved, did you say?
Mid-1800s. I think it was 1851. Well, many of the dwellings, and the guidebook says that all the dwellings in Lowthorp, which is the first houses that you walk past, are still on the same footprint that the original village was on. Yeah. So I know we're on a road here, but we're not going onto a main road. We only find the Wesleyan Chapel, and then there's a right turn.
Look at those flowers. Again, I've no idea what they are. They obviously like the water.
And so we find the church that moved in the 1800s. Now, of course, it is a different design now to what it was before, but they did take the stone from that graveyard that we saw a moment ago, carried it really a short walk down the road, but it was more prominently positioned for the village of East Witton, which had really swallowed up Lowthorp, and also as well it was much closer to the road, and of course that's important in times of people passing through and wanting to look for a church to go and pray. One tucked away at the back of the village would be harder to find, so that's the reason why it moved. Now we're progressing now through Lowthorp. These houses, as we said, are set out on the same plan as the original dwellings were in that Lowthorp hamlet that disappeared. And then we do start to get further down now into East Witton, and East Witton's quite a large little place. Now, the interesting link between East Witton and the Scropes and also Jervaulx Abbey is we've obviously got the Scropes at Danby Hall, and they're employing people to work within their house cleaners and maids and cooks, and also as well at Jervaulx Abbey, as happened at many abbeys, including Fountains Abbey as well, a hall was built, and the hall was built from stone taken from the abbey. These places were normally built in the 1800s, and there is a hall at Jervaulx, and it is actually called Jervaulx Hall, and many of the people who worked in the hall, there was carpenters and maids and all those things, all lived in East Witton. So this was a village of people that were serving the local lords, the Scropes being one of them. That stone we just saw used to be the main water source for the village of East Witton. The villagers would come out and collect their water and then take it back to their homes. And we're going to actually talk about this land in the middle in a moment. It's very original to specifically Wensleydale, Yorkshire villages. We're now walking up the green to our picnic spot, and it is just beautiful actually. And we've driven through East Witton many times, and you really don't stop to take in the houses that are around you and the feel of the place, and to get out there on foot, it makes such a difference. And it's one of the things we're most excited about on these picnic walks, is exploring some places. We are going to be in new places too, but we've started today with a place that we know and love, and we are discovering all sorts of, like just over there you see that Wesleyan chapel, and I've never noticed that before in my life, and we had a good opportunity to have a really close look at that. And they of course were a major part of village life across the country, and there actually is another water source that was pulled up in the later years. Now of course the houses are running water themselves, but for many years they would have come out and got their water off this land that sits in the middle of all those houses. As we progress up the village, there is an old village shop. Unfortunately it's now closed, and that has just happened. It's really been in my lifetime, over the last 40 years those village shops have slowly but surely died out, and it is wonderful to have the internet and Amazon and destination shopping, but actually it would be lovely, wouldn't it, if we could live in a world where those local shops as well would have a place and would be used. I know I would go in. And there we have finally our destination for lunch.
It's time for the picnic part of the Bakery Bears picnic. Now, we've already had our sandwiches, and I must say they were delicious.
Very nice granary bread and some ham and some cheese and tomato and salad cream. Does everybody know what salad cream is?
It's cream that you put on salads.
Well, people in the UK will know what salad cream is, but I don't know if you will in the US.
Or other parts of the world, of course.
I won't say it's like mayonnaise, because it's not like mayonnaise.
It's not as rich.
It's not as rich.
It's not full of eggs.
It's tangy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like white tomato ketchup.
Do you think? I don't know if it's that. I don't know. It's lovely, and it's a very, you have it on salads, and I know people have salad dressings, don't they? That's way posh for a Yorkshire girl like me. I have salad cream on my lettuce and tomatoes.
We are in East Witton,
We are.
sat on the common grazing land Now, it's a traditional Wensleydale village, and this is how they would lay out the village, with land in the middle where the people who lived in the houses could let their livestock graze. Brilliant. And it was used in 1988 in the episode of All Creatures Great and Small called Against All Odds. Tristan Farnan, also known as Peter Davison, Doctor Who, of course. He was my favourite Doctor, I've got to say.
Really?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, I was a Tom Baker Doctor Who.
Peter Davison for me all the way. And he dropped, there was a bus stop, just literally just there, just across from where we are, and Peter Davison dropped off Verity, where Verity was. And that was 1988, so that's fairly late in the run. But it's lovely, isn't it? Isn't it a really pretty
beautiful.
village?
We've driven through it lots of times, but never, stopped and had a look around. And it's just lovely. I love the layout of it, and the houses are so pretty.
Are you feeling a bit better now, darling?
Feeling a bit better now. I was struggling. It was just straight away.
It was uphill. It was
straight away. It was like get out of the car and then straight away. It was uphill, 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 uphill.
So we've been going about a couple of hours now. We're well into our story of the Scropes, but who cares about the Scropes at Danby Hall? I want to have our special.
We picked up when we started at Jervaulx. We went in the little cafe and we've got some Wensleydale fruitcake and Wensleydale cheese, because you traditionally eat fruitcake with cheese. I've never done this.
Oh, I love it.
Have you had this before, fruitcake and cheese?
I have. I used to have it Christmas cake with cheese.
Yeah, Christmas cake and.
Do you remember that time that I had fruitcake and I had a bit of cheddar with it? And you were like, "What are you doing?"
No,
yeah.
I do. So there it is. Look. I don't know if you can see.
We spoke earlier about how this is the home of Wensleydale cheese, and what happened was
I'll break you off a bit.
After the dissolution
it
of
feels
Jervaulx
like nice
Abbey.
Fruitcake.
So
sorry for the rustling.
That's all right. So of course, here we go.
Fruitcake and cheese.
Look at that. Yes. I miss Wensleydale cheese.
Is it really nice? I love Wensleydale cheese.
Oh,
I'm going to try it. Oh,
Mummy!
I'm so excited.
I should have got 2 bits of cheese to go with it.
Well,
I wasn't
there's
sure.
loads of cheese.
Do you know what it's like? It's just a bit like, it's like buttery. It's delicious, isn't it? I really like it.
Oh, it's lovely.
Isn't it? Now, after the dissolution of the monasteries, the local farmers, so in the 1500s, they saw an opportunity. They were famous for making Wensleydale cheese.
This is a revelation.
Yeah. They're famous for making Wensleydale cheese, and so they carried on. And they carried on making it until the war. And it was only rationing in the war when they had to stop. When rationing finished, do you know when rationing finished? What year?
Oh, it was in the 50s.
1954.
Yeah.
The year before you were born.
Feels like it, let me tell you, after that war.
And it never picked up again. Because what happened was, Hawes, there's a town called Hawes not far from here. The Wensleydale Creamery opened up there, and that's where they started making the cheese.
Lovely Wensleydale cheese.
Give us more. It really is delicious. You need to try this.
It's very creamy but tangy as well.
Isn't this cake nice, actually?
It's a delicious cake, actually.
We got this from the tea shop that we mentioned.
It's very moist.
Oh, it is moist.
It is moist, this cake. It's lovely. It's very,
moist.
It feels kind of like Christmas.
The queen of all words. Plinth. The king of all words.
So what you do is you get a bit of cake and a bit of cheese. I'm probably telling everybody who already knows this.
But when was the last time that any of you out there sat in the middle of Wensleydale, less than half a mile from where Wensleydale cheese was born, and sat and ate a piece of fruitcake with some Wensleydale? Why don't we get this cheese more often?
I don't know, it's delicious.
And is it readily available? I can't remember. Is it?
Well, off the cheese counter it will be, yeah.
Because I never remember, you go in the supermarket and you go and you pick up your cheddar, and you never really, and of course cheddar's just up the road from my mum. Cheddar Gorge.
Cheddar Gorge. No,
Why is it?
It'll be on the cheese counter, definitely.
Every conversation you can link back to Miranda. It's marvellous. That, as Kay says, is a revelation, and I urge you to try it.
You all must go out, make a fruitcake, and eat it with Wensleydale cheese. It's delicious. Oh, I really need a cup of tea. I haven't got a cup of tea.
All we have is water.
I only have water.
It's just not good enough.
I should have brought a flask. But tea doesn't travel well in a flask. Not English tea doesn't travel well.
No.
Anything with milk, I don't think travels well, does it, in a flask?
No.
But we're going to have a cup anyway when we get back.
Do you know what I think we should do? A bit of knitting.
All right, okay.
I think we should sneak in a couple of rows. For those of you who don't know, both Kay and I are knitters.
I've got to put my cake down.
Oh no, pass it here if you like.
Well, no, I want some more in a minute.
Okay, I wasn't going to eat it.
Well, I'd never know with you. I need to just give my little hands a wipe. Well, they're
yes.
not particularly little hands, they're just mean hands.
Your hands are little. Can I have a wipe as well?
Well, you can share my wipe.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
I don't know how many I've got.
Are we on wipe rations?
We are on wipe rations, yes.
What are you knitting on? What have you brought?
I brought a sock. There you go.
Beautiful. Do you know what? It would be wrong of me not to ask Kay Jones. What's on your needles?
Sorry. Flowers everywhere, sniffing like mad.
And do you know what I'm thrilled about? My whole life I have suffered greatly with hay fever, and I should be sneezing like an absolute trooper right now. But I'm utterly convinced that it's gone.
Yeah, you used to be terrible.
See, I've said that now. It's one of the
You
positives.
see, I've got everything in my little project bag today. I have biscuits, I've got wipes, I've got tissues, I've got painkillers in case my leg really hurts. I've got sweets. You see, this is what you can fit into a project bag.
Oh, is that lovely, beautiful?
This is yarn from Lovely Deb at Fondant Fibre. It's sparkling in this sunlight. It's the blue one that I think I showed on the last podcast, actually.
But there may be people watching this who've got no idea what you're talking about.
We are knitters, and we do a knitting podcast as well.
We do.
But this is yarn from Deb at Fondant Fibre. Deb, if you don't know, is based in Derbyshire. She's a lovely, lovely lady. And I've knit loads and loads of her yarn, and it's all beautiful. She's an amazing dyer. And this is a colourway called Otterlie, and it's a superwash merino nylon and silver stellina. I don't know if you can see the sparkles in sunlight. And this is, I'm just knitting a plain sock, and I'm knitting this on DPNs. These are my chow goos. I'm going to say that properly now, chow goos. Although somebody told me on a forum that it might have been pronounced slightly different, but I'm going to go with chow goo. And I'm just knitting away, and it's 2.25 mils.
Beautiful. Can I tell you what's on my needles?
What's on your needles?
It is also a sock. We are the sock twins today.
Yeah, aren't we?
And it is it's opal yarn, and it's lovely. And I'm using, what are these needles? The metal ones?
Chow goos.
They're chow goos. Chow goos.
Yeah, I know. I think
I'm going to be a rebel.
Chow goos.
That's wonderful. And yeah, I'm knitting a lovely sock, and I must make sure that I don't go too long like I did on the rib.
You won't go too long, let me look. No, you're
Cool. But I think it's time for us to start learning a little bit about the Scroopes a bit more close to today's date, I think. Let's look at some of the later family as we start to get closer to Danby Hall.
We're off again then, Mrs. Jones.
We are.
Francisco is way faster than us.
He is, look at him go.
It's just not on. It's the final leg of our journey. We're going to have a leisurely stroll on what is a slightly longer bit than I think we anticipated down the river cover. But did you notice that lovely Wesleyan chapel on the right there?
I did, yeah. I think it was a house now, is that right?
Well, no, I don't think it is.
Oh.
It is for sale though.
Right.
But it's an odd for sale. It was something like £60,000 or £70,000.
Gosh.
But it was saying for use by clubs or the local community.
Oh, right.
So it can't be to live in. It must be just for local stuff.
Yeah, which is quite
Look
good.
at
Look at that dog scared the life out of us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just came to say hello. It was woofing like mad.
And this is a lovely walk with a little bridge that's going to go over through lots of fields, isn't it?
It was, and it's proper fields with like farmers driving tractors telling us which way to go.
Which was surprising, actually. That's
was.
it's not normal anymore. That reminded me of when I was young.
Yeah. I think this bit here had like this sort of bridge over it, and I think it must have been like super boggy or something.
Yeah. It's a lovely walk though through the parkland that lays directly in the sort of 180-degree arc around the front of Danby Hall, and I can really imagine looking at this and just the way it rolls. It feels. I mean, I know it's not landscaped, but if you plonk Chatsworth down here, it'd work.
It would, yeah. It does have a similar feel, doesn't it? I think they were all built on a sort of a plan, weren't they, in those days?
Very much so.
Yeah.
And of course, East Witten there that we're looking back at now, its links to everywhere is big, because of course all the people, as we discovered when we were chatting to the guy in the cafe when we finished our walk, he was telling us that all the people who used to work in Jervaulx Hall and also Danby Hall used to live in East Witten.
Yeah, which is similar with Chatsworth, isn't it?
It is.
Enza.
Yeah. Now there's a lovely horse up here as well, wasn't there? Do you remember?
Oh, it's a beautiful horse.
Yeah, a real big one.
Yeah.
But of course it is near to the Gallops at Midland. Midland has
Yes.
become world famous for its racehorses. Some of the best racehorses in the world have come from there. Very tricky little gate we're going through, and I think now it's time for us to get back on the story of the Scropes. So we're now in the heart of the park that would have accompanied Danby Hall. And what's so interesting about Danby Hall that we're going to see any moment, we're going to start to get close and get some great pictures, I hope, is it has a peel tower on it, and peel towers were normally only built on the Scottish borders. It's the furthest south that there is any peel tower in the country. It's like a fortified tower that was supposed to protect the land around it.
I was going to ask, right.
By 1630, though, Danby Hall was in the hands of a man called Emmanuel Scrope, and Emmanuel Scrope was married to a lady called Elizabeth Manners.
Oh,
Now,
Manners.
yes,
I know that name.
she was the daughter of the owner of Haddon Hall.
Yes,
Would you
thank
believe it? Now, Emmanuel and Elizabeth had 4 children, but all died young. And this was a crucial moment, really, in the history of the Scropes and the local area. The house and the estates, so Bolton Castle that we've seen, and all their estates were broken up, and different parts of the family took them over. So brothers and sisters and cousins all took over different parts of the family. The current family line living in Danby Hall arrived in 1630. Now, it's still all the same family, remember? So it's not that a new family has moved in. This is still the Scropes. And in 1630, Simon Scrope moved in. Now, one of his daughters, Margaret, would marry John Messenger, and Fountains Hall would become their family home. And I mention that because Fountains Abbey, again, is one of the areas that we've been to and covered before, and we may well do a walk around there. So I'll pop a link in the show notes if you want to have a look at Fountains. But Fountains Hall is where Simon's daughter Margaret and her husband John would make their home. Now, it's interesting again, isn't it, that tradition seems to have once again taken hold, and the eldest child and heir in the Scrope family is being called Simon. And this tradition is actually upheld to this day, and it's to the last 2 members of the family line that we turn to now. In June 2005, the then head of the family presided over a huge family gathering in York. They'd come to commemorate the 600th anniversary of their ancestor, Richard Scrope, the Archbishop, who had of course been beheaded, as we learnt about earlier. They journeyed by boat along the Ouse to a service at the Minster. Danby Hall is just further along the cover, which we're going to show you in just a moment. But look at this tree. How old do you think this is, Kate?
It's got to be hundreds, hasn't it? I mean, the trunk is massive.
It's
I mean,
a huge tree. So this will have been
the canopy. Is it absolutely enormous?
It
I think it's a beech. No, I don't think it is a beech. Somebody tell me what this tree is. Shall I show a leaf?
We're slap bang on the river cover here. The river cover. Think very much, is it the Derwents at Chatsworth?
Yes, yes.
Think very much how the Derwent runs in front of Chatsworth, and how many stately homes, how many grand sort of country piles are set out that way. And of course they would, because they need running water. So the river cover's going to run directly in front of Danby Hall. We can't get into it, but we can walk straight past it. That's what we're going to do right now. And the second to last owner, the current owner, is still alive. He's just a year older than me, but the second to last owner was a guy named Simon. Once again, they're copying names. It was Richard's, then it was Henry's, and now it's Simon. Every male heir is called Simon. And he supposedly was an amazing guy. He loved his horses. He used to be heavily involved at York, at the races at York and at Pontefract. But he also served with the Coldstream Guards, and he was a really great man. I found a really great obituary actually on him. He died in 2010 in the Telegraph, and I'll stick that in the show notes so you can read all about him if you want to. But let's get down the cover and see if we can find the hall. So we're nearing the end of our journey, folks, and we start on these well-worn steps up to the river cover and then over the road, and we're then running along the bank right in front of Danby Hall. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Kay and I didn't actually get very close to Danby Hall on the day that we filmed. I had to go back a second day on my own and go hunting. And that for me adds to the mystery of this place. We've been visiting here for years and we never knew that this place existed. I spotted it on a map. I then started speaking to some local people. We discovered this walk that we went on that day, and it was only actually after we finished this walk that I was told about another path that's not well known at all that takes you within 100 yards of the house, and I'm going to take you on a walk on that in just a moment. Now, I love the fact that this place is privately owned, and the reason why is I think that there's something special about a house that was moved into in the 1300s by a family who'd arrived in, you know, the most exciting of fashions with William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings. The same family has then lived for years in that house that we're looking at now. I really am fascinated by ancient families and understanding where we've come from, because I'm really of the belief that if you understand where we've come from, it better shapes where we're going. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's always stood me in a really good stead. And you know, to find this place that feels like one of those hidden gems, that really is one of those hidden gems. The path that I walked along, I felt like I was intruding, and it is a path, it's a public footpath, but you still felt, I don't know, as if I was doing something a little bit naughty. I felt a little bit naughty filming. I mean, Simon Scrope, not the current, he's actually known as Harry, and we're going to speak about him in just a moment, but Simon Scrope, who died in 2010, his wife still lives in that house, a descendant of that family who, throughout history, has sat right on the cusp of some of the most important people that shaped not only our country but also the world, when you consider Henry V and Richard III and all the people that we've spoken about today. These were, in effect, normal people like you and me trying to get on in life, but I found and I believe that they always stood up for what they believed in. And, you know, to great expense to themselves at times, when you consider the amount of Scropes who ended up with their heads being severed from their shoulders. This is a truly amazing English family. It's been an absolute joy today to share with you some of our hidden history. And what excites me is the amount of other hidden gems that there are out there. Not just these still privately owned stately homes with rich histories, you know, going back through the dawn of our country, but also other exciting places that we desperately want to take you. But let's just take a moment now to enjoy the majesty of Danby Hall and its surrounding garden and estates.
So we've learnt all about the Scropes, and the question is, does their bravery and their chivalry last to the present day? Well, I'll tell you this, it's been very difficult for me to find out information about this family and about the house, and for us even to get close. But what I did find was a newspaper report from 2002, when a certain Simon Scrope, nicknamed Harry, who was a member of the British Army, was on an expedition in the Arctic, and this is what happened.
In 2001, aged 27, Simon Henry Scrope, known as Harry to his friends, found himself as part of the British Army Antarctica expedition. He was being led by his group leader Major Harris up a glacier when suddenly Major Harris disappeared down a 200-foot crevasse. Luckily, they were roped together and Harry Scrope dug in. For 2 hours, he held Major Harris on the end of his rope, whilst the rest of the team secured the area around the crevasse and rescued him.
So I think we can make our own mind up now that perhaps that chivalry and that bravery that has been in the Scrope family since they arrived on these shores back in 1051 has stayed with the family right the way through the years.
Starting at Jervaulx Abbey, we have taken you on a journey over 1,000 years. From the tranquility of Adam Sedber's private chapel within the grounds of Jervaulx Abbey, to the hidden majesty of Danby Hall and the grand castle at Castle Bolton, to the very birthplace of Jervaulx Abbey, Richmond Castle, The Bakery Bears Picnic was brought to you thanks to our podcast patrons. If you would like to see us continue on these journeys and take you with us, we need to get through our third milestone. Please visit our Patreon page to find out more about supporting our show.